all three of you guys. Patrick Bailey, Ryan Walker, Paul Murphy. If you didn't play baseball, what would you do with your life?
Probably, I'll take the easy way out here, and I'm going to say probably coach baseball. If baseball's out of my life completely, I was okay at math, so something with numbers.
I'd probably go first responder route, so EMT, firefighter.
By the way, Patrick, you're not a big analytics guy, are you? He loves it.
Okay, Tom. Yeah, my brother back home in upstate New York is a forest ranger, so that kind of was probably going to be my path too if it wasn't for baseball.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, each of you obviously has a story to tell, and God's been writing that story in your life. When did that take place? Who influenced you in relationship to understanding what it means to be a follower of Jesus Christ? And how did that occur? What did it do to you? Tell us a little bit, about your testimony. And Ryan, we could start with you.
I'd say my dad probably, got me into it. I mean, we've always gone to church my whole life, so that obviously helps. But as I go through life, I got to college, I started doing AIA and stuff like that, Athletes in Action for fellowship with athletes and stuff, so that helped too. Along with everything comes its up and downs, so keeping that faith really helped me get through the lows, and then also not get too high and realize my stable ground is Jesus. It's not me or success in the field or whatever.
Woo! I think one of the things, guys, I want to pause just for a minute. I know tonight was a tough loss, and sometimes it can be really hard to go out and kind of put that away, put that to bed, so to speak, and all of a sudden be in front of a group of people and have to go in a totally different direction. And so I want you to know how much I appreciate that, because losses are no fun, and none of you guys up here like losing, and you shouldn't like losing. But at the same time, I just want all of you to know how much I appreciate the fact that on a night like tonight, they would sit here in front of you and talk to you about the thing that I would say is the most important thing in their life. And I just want to thank you very much.
So for me, I grew up in church, kind of steadily when it was a big thing in my family, so I'm very thankful for that. I would say the moment I really surrendered my life to Christ was my senior year of high school. God kind of shook up my life a little bit, and that's when I realized just there's nothing more important than God and putting Him first. And as Ryan said, it's kind of been up and down ever since. But just trying to give God control of my life and changing who He wants me to be.
Yeah, I find it really interesting when they talk about the ups and downs of life. I mean, isn't baseball an incredible game in relationship to drawing the analogy of faith? Because as you play the game, it's a game of failure. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a game of failure, and these guys are coming out here every night and every afternoon they get a chance to play. And they're competing to do their very best, but they know that they're not going to be perfect. And I think there's something unique and interesting about that in the context of the faith journey too as well. And I'll get a chance to speak to that, because there is one who is perfect, and actually who makes us perfect. And we're going to talk about that process a little bit later, but You?
Yeah, for me, it's been a little different than Ryan and Patrick. I didn't grow up with anything at all. Really, this is kind of my first year diving in. And for me, I would say the biggest impetus in all of this has been my kids. You know, I think about what I see in them, and I kind of translate it to what I've been through in my life and all the struggles I've had without really having a higher purpose. So for me, it kind of took a little bit of an introspection once I was having kids and seeing the things that they're going to have to deal with in their life. And for me, it kind of felt like I needed to learn more about it, to kind of take the dive into something that I knew I kind of always needed, but didn't really know how to access. And really, this year with the Giants has been the first year for me to dive in. And really, it's a thanks to these guys like Nick Ahmed, who can't be here tonight, but super welcoming, encouraging.
Really cool. You know, all of you have talked about family and the significance of family. Gosh, guys, I got to tell you how important that is. Moms and dads that are here, raise your hands. Okay, yeah. Now, did you hear what they said? The significance of being raised in a family that set an example for them to ultimately come to the place that they came to. And I think that's so important for us to be mindful of. I've got another question for you. How has faith helped you to manage the stress of life and work?
Let me take that one. Okay. Again, it just keeps you stable, you know, because at the end of the day, being out in the field, it's not life, you know, it's not what defines me or us as people. It's our faith in Christ trying to walk as Jesus walked on this earth and spreading it around to others. So being able to have a mindset like that helps get through all the hardships of baseball and just life in general. Yeah, that's what I have.
Yeah, for me, I feel like the last little bit of my life too, I feel like God's been pushing this is just the value of storing up heavenly treasure versus earthly treasure. And so just trying to change that perspective in my life and how I see my value, how God sees me as his son and not a ball player. So that's been a big one for me.
That's huge. It's not what you do that matters most, it's who you are, isn't it? But then when you understand who you are, it really does affect everything you do. You can go between the lines and give your best effort regardless of winning or losing. Obviously you want to win and you want to get, you want to get 2 out of 4 or 1 out of 3 and not the overnight. But at the end of the day, when God sees you, he sees the value of you, Christ in you. And I think that's so significant because this game doesn't define you. But at the end of the day, because you understand that, you can actually be a better ball player, in my humble opinion. So, Tom?
Yeah, I think on the flip side of what these guys said, like I know what it feels like to not have something to rely on. And, when the going's good, it feels great because it feels like it's all you. But when it's bad, it's really bad. Like you have nothing to lean on or to rely on. So really, you just take that burden upon yourself, and it can be taxing, to play, virtually a whole career that way. So I'm looking forward to the benefits of that. Like I said, I can't say that in the past year I've been able to give up my old habits or anything like that, but it's come a lot closer, and I feel like when I'm at my best, I can feel that reassurance for sure.
Okay, audience, thank you. You know, I think the thing that is so significant as we play this game is to realize, as followers of Christ, we don't have regrets. Because, you know, we can all look back and see the mistakes we've made. And I think the beauty of coming to faith in Jesus Christ is understanding that when you do, it's all been forgiven. And His grace covers it all. And that's the power of this incredible life that we call walking with Jesus. So does anybody have a question? Yes. Okay, I will repeat that. I'll be right back. Oh. Okay. And why?
Yeah, I can start that one off. I just kind of finished through the New Testament throughout this year, and obviously, like, the Gospels have been fantastic. And I think, you know, through kind of the suggestion from Nick and these guys and stuff, that using the Gospels as a chance to really study Jesus and how He lived and His actions and His daily routines. I think that's really where the kind of the magic is lied in for me so far. Is really kind of studying the source, you know, that's found in the Gospels.
Anybody else want to respond to that?
It's the Gospels for me as well, and I couldn't say it any better myself, so I'll leave it at that.
That's a ditto.
I just actually finished reading it with Nick. But I'd say one of my favorite verses is Ephesians. Ephesians is great. It teaches you how your family is a representative of God and the church. And at the end, it also explains the armor of God, which I believe is so important to realize that we put the armor of God on every day to battle temptations and sins that come our way. Because I tell you, without that, it's virtually impossible.
Yes, a question. Shout it down and I'll repeat it. Whether good or bad, what is the hardest thing to surrender to Christ? Whether good or bad, what is the hardest thing to surrender to Christ?
I mean, for me, it's my career. That's been the hardest thing in battling right now. Yeah, my career.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Career, and trying not to idolize your success. So, yeah, giving that up is pretty tough. We're all naturally, I think, selfish and want to believe that it's all us. As harsh as that sounds, but it's just truth. And so surrendering that is probably the toughest.
Yeah. For me, it's been
That's the biggest part of it. Going in with a purpose when you call each other is huge. Making sure you're not at like a stalemate. You're sitting there with nothing to say. I'm not saying I've done that well, but it's definitely something I've been working on.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. We spent half the season away from our families, and that's hard. But thankfully, as Ryan said, I have an incredible wife and almost 2-year-old daughter that makes coming home a lot easier.
Yeah, I reiterate the wife. I mean, we're kind of nothing without that when we have families in baseball. But I would say it's also the time that you do get to spend with your kids is just being 100% in, because you know that 6 months out of the year you can kind of be emotionally unavailable sometimes, and when you're not in that state, they deserve all that attention.
In my own life, in relationship to this question, it was really important when I was on the road to hang out with my buds. And I know you guys have spoken to that and the importance of each other's each of you in your own in your lives. But for me, it was being able to have the friends that could surround me when I was on the road, to protect me, to create a safe environment for me. And I think that's so important in the game of baseball. I think it's so important in life. All too often, we want to try and take this thing and do it on our own. And quite frankly, we can't. We need each other. And it's just really encouraging to hear these young men talk about the significance of understanding their family and the influence of their families in their lives, the significance of recognizing, because of their faith in Jesus, where their real value is. I mean, it's really powerful to hear that. And then to hear that the things that are really difficult for them, I think, are things we all can relate to. Just because they've mentioned baseball and control, things that you might not be able to relate to in relationship to wearing that uniform, it's still the struggle they have when they go out there for that not to become their God. And so what difference is that for you or I in relationship to the idols in our life? And understanding the struggles that are there. But we get to lean into Jesus and trust Him. And in doing so, as we walk closer with Him, some of those things get to diminish. And we get to experience something even more special as we walk closer with Jesus. And that's His loving embrace, isn't it? His loving embrace. It's late. These guys have played a long game, although I'm so grateful that the games are shorter. You guys, but thank God for the pitch clock. I didn't need a pitch clock, but obviously these guys do. So I'm really grateful that they use it, and yet they need to get home to be with their families. So why don't we give them a round of applause? That bonus money was a cup of coffee and $500 a month. But you know what? It really didn't matter because I was given a chance to play. And 3 years later, I was in spring training with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I'd gotten traded to the San Diego Padres. And it was in San Diego during spring training at the end of that camp that I got shipped off to Amarillo, Texas. And while I was in Amarillo, I met a friend and a teammate, and his name was Byron Ballard. And Byron Ballard challenged me to do something. And that's what I want to challenge you with tonight. For those of you who are here who might be investigating Jesus and faith, Christianity, the challenge that Byron gave me was, would you be willing to read the Bible to discover who you are in relationship to Him? And that summer in 1981, I went on that journey. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that Bible, and it's not the book, it's the God that you discover in that Bible that transformed my life. I remember sitting on a balcony in, I think it was Little Rock, Arkansas, and I had opened up a little New Pocket Testament Bible from the Gideons. And I was reading in the book of Ephesians, and it was chapter 2, verses 8 through 10. And I'll never forget how that impacted me in that moment. I want you to know that I was actually in a really good place. I was having success as a minor league pitcher. Things were looking really good. In the eyes of the world, I wouldn't have a need for Jesus. I have everything I need. I've been successful. I'm in a new organization. Things are going really good for Dave. But I opened up that little handbook, that little Bible, and when I read Ephesians 2, 8, 9, and 10, I was floored. For it is by grace you have been saved through faith, and this not of yourselves. It is a gift of God, not by works, so that no man can boast. I came face to face with the reality that Jesus took care of it all on the cross. As I continued to read Scripture, I was overwhelmed by Romans and the Romans Road, for those of you who might be familiar with it. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. And I was that guy. I knew when I looked in the mirror that I was a sinner. I didn't have to fool anyone. I knew who I was when I looked in the mirror. For the wage of sin is death. When I looked in the mirror, that was the one thing that confused me when I went to Byron. And I said, what does this mean? For the wage of sin is death. He goes, Dave, if you don't reconcile this issue of sin with God, and you die, you will spend eternity separated from Him. And Jesus called that hell. I didn't want that. I didn't want that. But while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my gosh, He went to the cross for me. So what does that mean? He took on my sin. I deserved to be nailed to the cross. But no, instead, Jesus went to the cross on my behalf. And He bore my sin to set me free. He bore the sin of the world to set us free. And I was overwhelmed by this amazing gift. For it is by grace you have been saved through faith, and this not of yourselves. It is a gift of God, not by works, so that no man can boast. And all you have to do is acknowledge that Jesus is the Son of God, and acknowledge that He went to the cross and died a brutal death on that cross, shedding His blood for the forgiveness of our sin. And then to recognize that 3 days later, He conquered sin and death through the empty tomb. And that was all I needed to know. All I needed to know. And that summer in Amarillo, Texas, my wife and I made a profession of faith. We asked God for forgiveness. We acknowledged that He was the Son of God, and we invited Him into our lives. And we made a commitment from that day forward to live for Him. Now, in the years past, what I have discovered is something incredibly important that I've needed to hear for a long time walking with Jesus. Verse 10 of Ephesians 2 says this in the New Living Translation: For you are His masterpiece, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which He, God, prepared in advance for us to do. When was the last time you thought of yourself as His masterpiece? Yeah. It's only been recently that I've begun to think of myself as His masterpiece. But, as these young men have shared with us tonight, God isn't finished. We are becoming the masterpiece He created us to be the day we met Jesus. And so if you're here tonight, I challenge you. I challenge you in the same way that Byron challenged me. Pick up the Bible and discover who you are in relationship to Him. And if you want to know where to go, start in the Gospel of John. And if you like Ephesians too, like some of these guys over here, you can jump into Ephesians. But don't take the chance. I'm not here to twist anybody's arm. God forbid. But I want you to know something. What did your dad say, Christian? What did your dad say? Why, when you knew of this hope. All these people knew of this hope. Why didn't they tell me? Why didn't they tell me? So we're telling you tonight. Hope is in Jesus. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through him. He is the way. And all you have to do is pray that simple prayer. As a matter of fact, let's close our eyes right now. You know what? You don't have to close your eyes if you don't want to. Because I have the hardest time when I pray, closing my eyes, my mind wanders. And so I keep my eyes open. So if you're cool with that, good. Father, thank you for this wonderful evening together. And we're just so grateful for your son, Jesus. He is the center of our attention tonight. I appreciate so much these young men. I would ask that you would continue to strengthen them in their faith and their teammates who can't be here tonight. I ask that you would just continue to work in their hearts as they continue their walk with you. Just so grateful for the fact that they took time out to come and share their stories with all of us. So be a blessing to them, Lord. Be a blessing to them. Father, if there's anyone here, I just want to invite them to know that all I have to do is pray a simple prayer. And it's not the prayer. It's the posture of your heart. You know, if you're here, you know you're the one that God is speaking to right now. So what I would ask you to do is just pray along with me in the quietness of your heart. Father, thank you so much. Thank you so much for bringing me here tonight where I get to hear this good news about Jesus Christ. I acknowledge to you tonight that you are the Son of God, Jesus, and you came to this earth to save me from my sin. You were nailed to the cross and shed your blood so that I would be forgiven. Jesus, I ask that you would come into my life and live. I thank you for the forgiveness that you have offered through the cross and the freedom that you give me as I move forward in this new life. And Jesus, thank you for the hope that says that this isn't all there is, and that we will live with you forever because of the promise that you gave us through the cross. And it's in your precious name that we pray. Before you all leave, I want you to take this time just to be silent and let the words that Matt is going to share with you just settle in and saturate your heart with the love of Jesus.
Let's sing this song together.